I've talked about the Fairly OddParents before, both in animation context and with one of my more recent videos this year on the channel talking about the video game Break Into Rules. I mentioned that it would be fun to take a look at another Fairly OddParents game, the semi-sequel Showdown, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Shocker, I know. But the nostalgia itch has come back, and I figured it's finally time to take a look at this game and find out if it holds up, if it's an improvement from the last game, or find out if it was better left as a memory. Pop open your disc tray. I'm wishing for a good game. Once again, coming from THQ, Fairly OddParents Shadow Showdown is a platforming adventure returning us to the world of the show in fun 3D video game graphics. Releasing in September of 2004, not even a full year from the previous Fairly OddParents game, the same teams would be working on this new game, with Helix taking the Game Boy Advance version and Blitz Games handling the console releases, in which we are talking about those today specifically in the video. Here now, only given a small window, being thrust into development of the second Fairly OddParents game as the other was coming out, it found quick success, so it was greenlit to make this next game right away, having to work with the feedback on the fly to try and implement some changes, fixes, and overall create a smoother gameplay experience for this follow-up, with less than a full year to do so. And that's not even accounting for the game having to go gold, get mass printed and boxed up all nice in a case to be sent to a store. So the window they had was tight, but they were able to work with what they had to refine certain aspects of the last game, giving us a new game that follows similar aspects to the last one, where the fairies' magic is restrictive, you collect stars and levels, then they help grant you wishes. This time, instead of 5 stars that you have to chase around an area, it's 3, with that tedious nature of the last game now feeling slightly less tedious. The wishes that you make are now mixed with Timmy getting some special stuff of his own that he can use in his inventory, as well as Timmy having access to limited attack powers. It gives us a little bit of a more complex system, at least in comparison to the last game, especially now as we traverse the levels, taking down enemies and solving puzzles. Here as you now collect coins in the game that you can use to unlock upgrades and gadgets that help you out in general in these levels, giving you some real incentive to collect these coins as you come across them, running through these levels with Timmy's big head literally dangling from his neck. Now, expecting in a game like this, with cartoon logic thrown in there for good measure, the story here isn't anything that is going to blow you away, but it is okay enough to really make the game work in the way it does, with Cosmo and Wanda having no magic powers again for some reason, forcing them to break out their emergency wands that aren't as powerful thanks to them having low energy. And we find out the magic is gone thanks to this magic fairy jewel being taken, and now Timmy must do what Timmy's gotta do and help save the day.
2 fairy godparents, 1 imaginative kid. Things are about to get really odd!
We start this game off with Timmy trying to watch the season finale of the Crash Nebula TV show, and when the TV goes out, he needs Cosmo and Wanda to fix it, but like I mentioned, their magic is gone, and they have to use these weak backup wands instead, giving you the excuse, to chase stars when you get to the levels. But first, you go to Fairy World to see what is happening when Jorgen von Strangle explains to us that the whole jewel being stolen plot, and what do we gotta do about it, as we are now asked to go and find this jester for the king and queen, who he thinks is the one who stole the jewel. The level we traverse through in Fairy World is fairly uninteresting for the most part. Not for the design of the level, but mainly for the slightly boring tasks that you have to do to make your way through the level. I love pretending to be a cow and having cows follow me so I can get them to stand on something. That's really fun. For your introductory level for the game, this is sadly not that fun, at least in my opinion, but we eventually reach the jester, have a boss fight with him, and now, in the clutches of Jorgen, we find out that he really isn't behind any of this. But now we gotta find something as or more powerful than the magical jewel as a backup plan while the jewel is trying to be located. Jimmy now grabs the recipe and ingredients to make a fairyversary muffin, a more powerful item that can help in general. As Timmy gets ready to make it, Vicky and Timmy's parents end up using all of the ingredients in some random they crave these ingredients way, except for the egg, until Vicky smashes it. So now Timmy needs to get his hands on all these ingredients again, as now in Jorgen's office hub, we enter the various levels. First, he needs to wake his dad up to get the sugar back from this random robot invention his dad made that he's having trouble catching. So he heads inside of his dream to find a way to get him up. The level you go through, while a decent enough little area, is pretty straightforward, as your goal becomes figuring out some basic puzzles to reach the end of the level, and inception your dad by implanting the idea of him helping Timmy to get the sugar. Well, that would have been really cool, but instead, after you defeat his dream robot, he wakes up over the anger of Timmy breaking the robot in the dream, but he's able to just help Timmy now get the sugar. After this, we head into the world of the Crimson Chin once again, and thanks to Timmy's knowledge, he knows that there's a phoenix egg that he can get within a certain issue and has it brought to him. You become Clef the Boy Chin Wonder once again, making your way through the wet world of this comic issue thanks to the villain here being H2 Olga. You get some cool gadgets here, like the one that turns your head into a plane essentially, to help you glide over certain gaps as you make your way through to the tops of these water-ridden obstacles to make the water H2 Olga feeds on, toxic from this sewage. The Crimson Chin then thanks you as we're all able to get this phoenix egg and leave. We then have a mission in the King and Queen's mansion as we are undercover as Ace Spade, aka the Maltese Chicken. We meet a character called Chamberlain, where after exploring a fairly cool mansion, go ghost like your Danny Phantom at one point and solve all the puzzles in your way, we learn that the King and Queen are in on all of the bad stuff going on, working with this shadowy figure who is clearly Chamberlain, but we're not supposed to know that yet. So you enter the treasure room and face a couple of people who are inside of this red Phantom outfit. There's this whole world flipping mechanic here that is really cool and fun to see how smooth it actually works, and then you get to also use it in the boss battle, and seeing the world here's details actually flipping and how fast it actually responds to it is pretty impressive to me for its time. We get a semi-confession of the King and Queen, who are clearly in that costume, that they are a part of their own jewel heist, where they don't say who has it, but make note to conquer the human world. These two escape, and while we don't find a piece of the ingredients that we need, Cosmo surprisingly helps out by finding a magical cooking bowl, which will come in handy for the baking process. We then move to get the flower back, where the King of the Apes is tossed from the TV and is listening to a shadowy figure who is clearly Chamberlain, and Timmy needs to help get his mom to safety, and of course the flower, that's important too. So when you enter this primal world, which is kind of bland, you end up just trying not to get caught by these security apes. You climb around these walls and you eventually find your mom all locked up in a cage, and now you must face the ape in a coconut versus banana battle. After you take care of him, you get the flower back and you let your mom go free. But now we have to deal with Vicky, as when she is watching a documentary about aliens on TV, she gets pulled into the documentary of sorts with the alien who has a crush on her, Mark Chang, as she is now treated as a queen, given her own space palace, and the shadowy figure speaks to Vicky, setting her up to do villainesque stuff, and it's clearly Chamberlain. We enter this space palace in our Crash Nebula outfit and get a jetpack as we platform up and across the level, dodging space lasers and robot enemies as you make your way to Vicky. Once there, you run around and try to not get hit by her and Mark Chang's blasts at you, while you try and butt bounce on a few buttons, Metroid morph ball yourself into them to do some damage, you rinse, you repeat. You get the milk back as we add some commentary on these credits, as again, we're technically in a TV show right now. But once that is all done, you now have everything you need for the muffin, where Jorgen even helps you bake it. What a nice guy. Now, with minimal time for the ultimate baddie, he's going to start a broadcast of his will over everyone to rule the world, as we find the source of it at Channel 13, with the King and Queen there tied up, and then Chamberlain exposing the truth that all along it was his shadow the whole time, doing the majority of the evil bidding. Then you have to fight him. Yeah, okay, the name Shadow Showdown. That makes sense. You have a pretty average battle with the Shadow, and not after too long, you turn him into some goo. But then he reverse Terminators back out of it, only to have Timmy eat the muffin, making a wish that is allowed to undo everything back to the way it was. The jewel is safe, the King and Queen express their apologies, Timmy heads back home to watch some Crash Nebula, where the narrator mentions it was only going to play one time on TV, and hopes that you didn't miss it, which Timmy is saddened by this, but hey, his fairies have magic, so he wishes that he can watch it, and Cosmo and Wanda, they do their thing. Timmy gets a happy ending, and the game that we played here was pretty fun for the most part.
Fairly OddParents, Shadow Showdown. Coming soon.
Overall, for being such a quick turnaround game, it really felt like the team behind it took some time to smooth out and expand the gameplay in many ways, but also feel like it's more cookie cutter in some other ways. While the platforming, moving around, and gadget use generally feels pretty good to control, the boss fights feel very dull, most of them ending in very similar ways or just being extremely basic. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a visual flair or challenge to these moments, but that's not to say that they're bad, they're just kind of boring. boring. I will say the whole mansion level is the highlight of the game, offering the most fun place to explore. Having the room flipping element, the ability to go ghost, I mean, come on, it has it all. Minus a truly great boss fight, but at least it's a little bit different. One thing you can note when going through most of these levels, especially the spaceship level, whether you see them as giant areas to get through or a smaller playing field than thought, it's just kind of empty. The places you go to just feel like they're filled with nothing. It does still get right the feeling of being within the world of the Fairly OddParents aesthetic-wise, really knowing how to stylize the look of the show into a 3D space, which definitely is a big plus. And also now the audio here is a large improvement to the last game, feeling a lot more crisp to help make you feel that you are more engrossed in comparison. I feel like there is just less overall. While it's more fleshed out, it feels lacking with what the previous game had in there. Here the story feels tacked on in a way of why you're going through all of these levels and why you have to fight these random bosses. A lot of what I liked in the last game is here, and for them to shorten the amount of stars you need to catch to make a wish is a great way to take out some of the padding, and these power-ups and gadgets you get that can be toggled on and off feel so great to use and a great addition. But things like collectibles, well, I think we lose some incentive for them, or some of them, I guess. While the last game had collectible cards to get for the Crimson Chin, this game has you find some stickers, but rather than give you unlockables of show clips when you find them like the first game had, these stickers are nothing more than just that, stickers. You can still unlock clips in this game as well, but just them not being attached to the stickers themselves, you just find them. As you spot these presents randomly throughout the map, with some having coins for the random shop space that shows up in the levels, and plus, just like the first game, it's really short, and you can breeze through it in around 5 or so hours, and it was a decent follow-up that could have offered a lot more if given more time, or if another game would have eventually came out. I feel about the same as I do on Breaking the Rules. It's a nice rush of nostalgia, and the graphics hold up and look great, and you should give it a shot for yourself if you haven't played the game or just haven't played it in quite some time, as there definitely is some fun to be had here. But if you do remember playing it or have some thoughts on the game, let me know in the comments below. How do you feel about Fairly OddParents Shadow Showdown? But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.